Welcome in, DawgNation. Everybody, it's got another Wednesday night live for you. I'm Jeff Sentell. Yes, I am trying to still look like I'm on a cruise. We missed you guys last week. We were on the DawgNation cruise. I believe we were just off of Coco Cay last Wednesday, and we were on our way to the Bahamas, Nassau, Paradise Island. This time last Wednesday. Everybody can't go on a cruise every week. How are you guys doing? Anybody been to that part of the area, part of the Caribbean before? Coco Cay through Royal Caribbean. Anybody been to that before? It's a pretty cool trip, especially the island. The water slides are great. Speaking of else, what's great is Georgia football recruiting. That's why everybody's here, gathered around for another edition of Wednesday Night Lives Before the Hedges. I got a few things for you today. We've got an interview with. Been on the road a lot lately. I've got an interview with from draft day from Jamari Salyer's house when he waited until the 6th round to get picked. Got a few minutes I spent with Jamari right after that. You guys will get a kick out of that. Also, I've got an interview with Denmark high school Great Dane Shem Umarov. He's a 3-star target. He just recently announced his top 4, released his final 4 official visits. He will do those in June. And I guess that's really what tonight's show is really all about. The 2 big signs that showed that Georgia football recruiting is definitely in full swing. One of those things I basically just touched on right now. We got 2 things to let the world know that, hey, this is off-season as much as off-season gets, which is primetime recruiting season for the University of Georgia. And the Keep It G 2023 class, folks on YouTube, I am hopping on right now on my phone in order to monitor and check out some comments. But, one of the things that really stands out, the first sign, yeah, Jay Keith, I do have some Tweety Birds. Unfortunately, I can't roll those things down, but nice little ambiance, I guess, a little bit on the back porch recruiting chats. But, the 2 signs that lets everybody know, lets a guy like me know that recruiting season is in full swing. First of all, it never stops. See Dan Mullen, see Kirby Smart, but this is where things kind of shift into overdrive, because when you have a championship roster and a championship program like the University of Georgia, they really want to use these summer months and these spring months for evaluation and also hosting recruits and official visits and really doing a lot of the legwork on some of their major recruiting targets in the 2023 class. Because in the fall, they don't really have a lot of time for official visits. They'll entertain them if that's what it has to be and that's the recruit's preference. But really what they're trying to do in the fall is they don't have a lot of time to spend a lot of time with a lot of marquee impact recruits on game day because game days are so busy. And the first big sign that Georgia football recruiting is in full bore go mode is you got this week, Georgia coaches were able to get back on the road. And you see Georgia high school football has opened up its spring practices. Some really big ones have been going on this week. Norcross High, Lawson Lucky, they opened up earlier this week. You also saw North Gwinnett open up on Tuesday. Georgia line coach Travion Scott was there to see Kaden McDonald on Tuesday. He was also in North Carolina, in Grimsley, North Carolina. That's the Greensboro area to see Jamal Jarrett. And if you kind of look where Coach Scott is going, as he makes his victory lap, I guess, after putting 3 guys into the league in the first round, Jamal Jarrett was a big target for him on Monday. Tuesday, he went to see Kaden McDonald. I think Wednesday today, you had Buford High open up in the Atlanta area along with Mill Creek. Mill Creek has the number 1 target on this week's top targets list. He's been number 1 for a while in Caleb Downs, the 5-star safety, the number 1 player in Georgia. He was getting after it today in full pads in front of a lot of college coaches, I might imagine. And it's just kind of going on now. This is what the college coaches are on the road. And, folks, this is the first spring practice they have gotten a chance to see since 2019, if that blows your mind. I guess it should, because, number one, 2020 was wiped away by the by the pandemic by the time May rolled around. And then 2021, well, college coaches were still in a dead period until June 1st, so they couldn't go on campus and see some kids. So really, first time since spring, April, May of 2019, that's the first time Georgia coaches have been on the road to high schools in spring to evaluate prospects. Now, of course, they got to go on the road last year in opportune times to close out the 2022 recruiting cycle. And also Kirby Smart got in a helicopter mostly all of January, flying around as well to do some recruiting as well. But mainly, this is really a big time for evaluation. The second big thing is you see a lot of official visits being set. We'll go over those in detail a lot in this program, but a lot of those June official visits are being set. Georgia is really going to host two really major weekends on the first 2 weekends of June. It looks like a lot of offensive players or marquee in-state targets are going to come during the first week of June. Guys like Justice Haynes and Caleb Downs, Pierce Sperling III will be there for their official visits the first week of June. And then some other guys, maybe more defensive-minded targets, will be there for the second weekend in June as Georgia starts stacking a lot of those official visits up. Lots of that stuff to cover right now. Let me see. Jay Keith, yeah, thanks, man. You don't mind the Tweety birds that are nearby, right? Thomas has a question. Thomas Duke, can Georgia get running back Justice Haynes to commit for the 2023 recruiting class? Well, certainly that's the plan for Dell McGee. He's really down to 4 schools. He's got kind of 4 schools he's kind of picked for his official visits, and we'll get into that in a little bit. See, going to catch some questions at the beginning of our program tonight. Questions at the beginning of our program tonight. Wanted to hop on Facebook real fast and see what everybody has to say. First of all, our show, DawgNation's Before the Hedges. It's a weekly show on all things Georgia football recruiting and Georgia recruiting. It's brought to you by Kroger, our fine partners at Kroger, a longtime partner at Kroger, such a great relationship there. Guys, you're out on the road like I am, making a lot of visits this week. Kroger is here to help with fuel rewards. You earn 1 fuel point for every $1 you spend at Kroger, in-store or online. Earn 2 times fuel points when you purchase gift cards and other items during special weekends throughout the year. Kroger, your partner, your teammate for fuel rewards. The thing that really stands out right now, besides the Tweety birds left and right, Tiffany Ard. No, I'm not still on the cruise. Joseph Kennedy, I like it. You think I'm drinking a mint julep? I mean, come on. Sometimes the way you dress kind of impacts the way you feel while you're working. I'm guilty of that, and so sometimes when it's really nice outside and maybe my body says it'd really like to be at the beach or on a boat somewhere, and I got to be at a ball field, and I'm glad to be at a ball field, privileged and thankful to be at a ball field. Sometimes I just act like I'm on vacation even when I'm working. Jamie Goodman, man, good to see you on the feed. I got it on the back porch. Joseph Kennedy, Connor's show shows up every Tuesday night. Tiffany Ard has a good take about BA, thinking that Arch is going to be a UGA commit based on the process of elimination. Texas having 0 players drafted compared to 15 for UGA. I think the other maybe pertinent angle for process elimination is that it always seemed like it's Georgia, Alabama, and Texas for Arch Manning. And over the last couple of months, at least the last month and a half, you've really seen Alabama make its play for a former Texas A&M quarterback commit out of Louisiana that now is trending toward Tuscaloosa. Joseph Kennedy, man, what is it? You look good, you feel good, you report good, everybody's all good. That's something what's going on. Chris Topol. Chris wants to know what's the backup plan Georgia misses on Manning. I don't really think there is a backup plan. I think Georgia would always try to add a quarterback in the cycle. What you would probably see happen is Georgia go and look down its board to one of the other higher rated quarterback commitments that it's been recruiting for some time, and I think might even be some of those young men that have also recently committed to another school. Another thing to think about there is, sometimes Georgia might look at, if you get the marquee 2023 quarterback, it's really going to impact what happens in the 2024 class, especially if it's Arch Manning. So, if for some reason Arch Manning does not choose Georgia, maybe the best backup plan would be to then go full bore for another Dylan Raiola type talent in the 2024 class. Mark Godfrey. Yeah, I got the hair going. Let's see. Joseph Kennedy talking to some birds. Joe Boswell wants to know about the Arch Manning commitment. No commitment timeline has been established yet. Steve Walden, Conor Liu. I had a chance to meet with Conor Liu over the weekend at Kennesaw Mountain. He sees himself as a center. Most schools like Georgia are recruiting him as a center. He's very interested in Georgia. Georgia's very interested on him. It sounds like he's down to about 4 schools. Catching a lot of questions here. The best part of my cruise, Randy, I think the best part of the cruise was just the rewatch with all of the DawgNation cruisers was pretty good. The national championship rewatch, I got to see some parts of the broadcast I didn't really see and really peruse because I was busy working on the sidelines, especially some of that post game stuff. I mean, I've seen all the clips by now of all the major impactful plays, but some of that post game stuff when I was taking pictures and everybody was on the podium, that was really, really neat to see. And I'm gonna tell you what, I really like the water slides. I'm a water slide guy. My wife and I, we went and rode about maybe 10, 11 water slides in a couple of hours on Coco Cay. That was a lot of fun, especially the one that was like the tallest one in North America. I think it was some 400 feet up in the air or something like that. That was really cool. Guys, I tried to answer a bunch of questions right now. Martha Halsey Johnson, Robert Hanna, how are you? Mark Godfrey, I don't think Georgia has a chance at all at the Pitt receiver. Randy Hall, it's funny. You want to know about Madden Sanker? I also got to talk to Madden Sanker recently. He's grown. I think he's grown about an inch and a half since this time last year. State wrestling champion. He's got his official visit set, but there's really 5 schools he's taking officials to, and not one of those is Georgia. Why? That's simply because he's been to Georgia a ton of times and didn't want to use an official visit. And he basically said every time he shows up at Georgia, it feels like an official visit regardless. That said, he is still chiefly considering Georgia among his top schools. And I think Madden's top school, Georgia will always stay right there in the thick of there for Madden Sanker. Of course, you'll see in the tonight's top targets, there's some new offensive line names that are kind of getting dialed in. If you know the names, like Tyree Adams out of Louisiana, that's a name that's emerging. I think, Roderick Kearney is also emerging. Samson Ukanala is also emerging. A lot of big names to look at on the offensive line. Of course, Georgia's got a commitment from Bo Hughley. There's word coming out that Monroe Freeling will take an unofficial visit in a couple of weeks on May the 25th to check out Georgia as well. So that offensive line it's kind of going to be shaped a lot. I think it's going to be shaped a lot by in-person evaluations. I think Stacy Searles was at Pace Academy today, or at least he was scheduled to check on Trevon Baugh at Pace Academy. A really nice looking 2023 offensive lineman that his line coach puts up there as he says he's the best offensive lineman in the state of Georgia. And when Kevin Johnson says something like that, I tend to listen and I tend to take his word for it. Speaking of segues, like how I did that, Kevin Johnson's one of his 2 prized pupils would be Jamari Salyer. I had the opportunity to spend both Friday night and Saturday afternoon draft days with the team Sawyer as they were anxiously waiting to kind of check out and see when his draft status would be. Afterward, right after the pick was in, right after he went in the 6th round to the Los Angeles Chargers, got to visit with him. And I'd like to share that with you guys right now here on DawgNation's Before the Hedges. Here's in the DawgNation conversation with Jamal Salyer. What are you going to remember about this, man? I mean, what's is your heart racing? Are you chill?
Yeah, I'm just going to remember how hungry it made me, honestly. I know for me, like I said, even in reporter interviews, I just said that I would have never imagined that this went like this on a Wednesday night when I was imagining the draft. I'm thinking I'm going to go a little sooner. So I know how hungry this is going to make me. I know the chip that it puts on my shoulder. When you go to a place like Georgia and you have success, sometimes you can look, too far ahead and say, oh, this is meant for me. But now I know I got to go take this thing. I got to go earn it. I still have more to prove, and I'm excited about that.
Sitting and waiting and wondering, maybe seeing players that you thought maybe you put more good stuff on film than those. How hard is that?
Oh, it's a tough thing. Everybody. Congratulations to everybody. I think everybody went where they're supposed to go. Obviously, I don't want to knock anybody, but I know for me, I know what I put on tape. I know that I was dominant in the Senior Bowl. I know I was dominant, and especially in the end for my team when they needed me. So I was always proud of myself on doing that, just being a guy that showed up and put the best on the line for my team. And I want to keep doing that as a Charger. So I'm excited.
What role do you think Kirby had? I mean, it was at least encouragement, but he sounded like he was fighting for you as well.
Yeah, he texted me beforehand. He's just like, I'm on the phone with the Chargers, kind of fighting for you. We'll just see how it goes, whatever. He's, we got on the phone, talked a little bit, he gave me some words of encouragement. He's like, man, you never know what can happen. Just keep your head up. He's like, I'm not really worried about you, making the team. And he's like, you're a great player, you're a great person. So, man, just go out there and do what you do best. And I was like, yes, sir.
5 minutes later, the phone rings and you got a screenshot that says LA Chargers.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
Anything emotional, hugging necks, mom, grandma, Andrew, like, what do you think you'll remember when you're old?
I mean, it was kind of just like, I just remember holding my breath when I saw LA Chargers. It's kind of wild because, you do all of this and you wonder, like, where is it going to be? Like, where am I going to be? Am I going to be cold in Chicago? Am I going to be burning up hot in Miami? Am I going to be up north in New York with my buddies and with the Giants? You just never know. And am I not going to go anywhere and stay in Atlanta? And so it's kind of I've been playing that mental gymnastics in my head, but now I know it's LA and I'm excited for it. So let's do it.
You said mental gymnastics. So there was a part where you were thinking, what's my next move if I don't get drafted?
Yeah.
And then you go from phone rings and everything else. That's got to be quick change, sudden change, everything, right?
It's wild. It's crazy how quick life can just kind of change on you, in a matter of minutes and seconds. I mean, it means so much, especially today. So I'm blessed.
Jamari, congratulations, man. Thank you so much for being first class.
Yes, sir.
Representing your family, representing where your community come from. Pace Academy, University of Georgia. And now the San Diego Chargers are going to get a great one. What does all those Bolt Up Nation fans need to know about number 69 heading their way?
Man, just know I'm coming to give everything I got. I got a chip on my shoulder. I know who I am. I know I have much more to prove, and I cannot wait to get there and show what I can do. So let's make it happen. Bolt up, baby.
Thank you so much, Jamari.
Thank you.
All right, guys, bolt up, baby. Did you hear that? Such a quality, first-class, fine young man. Intelligence, warrior ethic. We'll have a story coming up on DawgNation the next couple of days that kind of detail and kind of answer the questions. Why did Jamari fall? What was the reason? It's really, you learn a lot about the NFL draft. It's a lot of things. You learn a lot about the NFL draft and the way they view players. But I'm going to promise you this, folks. If you already had your appreciation level for Jamal Salyer right here, when he ended his Georgia career and transitioned to the NFL, I think what you're going to learn in this upcoming post is going to jack it up a couple more notches. Really in every sense of the word, what Jamal Salyer gave to the University of Georgia, he really gave his whole entire heart. I know you guys might expect that out of Jamari, but what's that song with Future? And it's a whole new level. It's a whole new level. Got a whole new level of respect for Jamari Salyer. Little taste. He's literally at his draft party, walking around and apologizing to everyone's like, sorry, I have to wait so long. Sorry. He's like, sorry, we're having you wait so long. And nobody cared where he got drafted. That was a day to celebrate Jamari and his next phase of his football career. But he was walking around and just feeling bad that some of his friends and family and inner circle were having to wait on him to get picked. And sincerely, I I don't know if I'll meet many athletes quite like Jamari in my time. So kind of keeping the things going with another offensive lineman from the 2018 class. Let's take a listen here to a potential offensive line target. He just came down to his final 4 official visits. He will take those in June. He's about 6'6", 325. Family is all over the place. It was in Soviet Georgia. It was in Turkey. He moved to Georgia when he was very, very young. I'm talking about a chance for another DawgNation conversation tonight with a guy that stands pretty decently on Georgia's board at offensive lineman right now, I believe. That would be Shamad. Everybody calls him Shamarad, Sham Umarov. The second DawgNation conversation tonight is with the Denmark Mauler. Let's take a listen right here, right now on Before the Hedges.
All right, we're here with a big dude at Denmark High School. So I don't get a penalty called on me for illegal procedure of name pronunciation. Shamarad?
Shamarad.
See right there? Shamarad, and can you pronounce your last name as well?
Umarov.
And what does that mean in Turkish?
My mom told me Shamarad once meant handsome king.
Living up to it right now. I think size is the first thing that jumps out when college recruiters see you, of course, when any human being sees you. Mm-hmm. How big are you? And then how do you think that's attracted college attention?
I'm 6'6", 328, and I guess that those numbers are a big deal for college recruits. They're wanting big kids, especially as an O-line, to block for their quarterback that are trying to score. So I guess it's a big deal for them to have me.
You recently took a visit to Georgia. How did that go? What are your big takeaways from leaving Athens? It sounds like they really want you to be a part of the team.
I thought it was cool. Seeing the practice, a college team practice, and especially Georgia practice, was a big deal for me. Seeing their pace and momentum they have, they're not trying to waste any time, and how important they are to use every second they have and to get better. They talked about how right now it's going to affect the last minute in a game, and I think that's definitely true.
Does Georgia look like the national champions when you watch them practice? What's your takeaways from that?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's so many leaders in their team. Like I said earlier that there's at least a leader in every position that I saw, and just their intensity and everything they do. They could be drinking water, and I guess it's like weird to say, but like they're doing it professionally. They're doing everything efficient, and they're trying to get them better.
Coach Cyril's, you have a relationship that goes back to the North Carolina days with him. What's that vibe like with him? How would you describe him, and I guess how is he recruiting you?
I describe him as a really good guy. I mean, everyone might say that, but he's just a passionate and nice guy to me. He's trying to be my friend first, and then he's gonna coach and tell me what's right and wrong. I've known him since he was at UNC, and he came down to UGA, of course. That was a pretty big deal for me because we have a great relationship.
What do you like best about Georgia right now?
Their location-wise and what they can do for me if I went there. They told me how, they're going to provide anything that's going to help me get better at anything I do.
I guess one of the things, if you had to sit there and think about what you're looking for in the perfect college fit, what are the big benchmarks for you?
I said that nature, just the environment of the campus and where it's located. Of course, in a city, that's great, and I've never really experienced a city. But I hope to experience. I think I might be seeing it later in my recruiting process. But I'd say, of course, the nature-wise and just the coaching style. How my coaches style and how they coach is a big deal for me in college, because I want them to be my friend and actually want to talk to me, but also want to make me better and coach me and tell me I'm wrong without them being scared of them hurting my feelings or anything. But yeah.
How would you describe the type of player you want to be out on that field?
I want to be really dominant. I want to make sure that people can listen to me and look at me when we're losing. I want them to know that anything that I want to do and say, I want them to know that it's going to get us better and just succeed in what we're trying to do.
All right, guys, we've got his name. It means handsome king.
There you go.
We just finished a handsome interview here with a young man from Denmark High School, the Big Dane, among the great Danes here at Denmark. Hey, man, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for spending some time.
Yes, sir.
There you go, guys. That if you ever want to know, I mean, Sham kind of looks Umarov. He kind of looks like a Turkish strongman, doesn't he? Like when I was talking to him, I got those vibes of that. That character from Street Fighter, the big guy is that Zangief, I think, the big guy with the mohawk. I mean, he is huge. He's put on like maybe 30, 40 pounds over the last 2 years. Big strapping guy. Actually, Sham, he really got to know Coach Searles when he was at North Carolina, and they formed a relationship there. So when Coach Searles came to Georgia, returned home to Georgia, it was a really good fit, and it was kind of a seamless transition there for Georgia while recruiting this young man. Want to catch some questions. One of the things I want to make sure I always do is kind of review through some questions. I saw a question from Jay Keith. Mr. Keith wanted to know, recruits reacting strongly to the big NFL draft. Also, what are the strongest, deepest positions in recruiting this cycle? And what are the positions that will be hardest to find? Mr. Keith, I would kind of take these in reverse order. The hardest positions to find, I think, are a true lockdown corner. I'm talking about a guy that can lock off his side of the field, have elite speed, and also elite coverage ability, speed turn, hips, the ability to stay in phase. I know sometimes Georgia doesn't teach all those disciplines, but really just a guy that looks like one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC, that type of talent. Consequent, maybe opposed to what a lot of people think, I still don't think Georgia has a lot of those guys on the roster. I think they have a lot of great interchangeable defensive backs, but I don't know if they have more than like two like all SEC ones at corner, just a pure cornerback type guy right there that, strictly that guy would be an outside corner, a boundary corner. I don't know if Georgia, even though that they brought in a lot of 5-stars, they brought in 5-star Malachi Starks to play safety. I think Julian Humphrey is going to be a great like star type, nickel type back. I think Dalen Everett can play all over the back end as well. And then you've got a guy like Jaheim Singletary also coming in as well. I don't know if Jaheim has the elite speed that you would like out of a big-time corner like that, but I think Jaheim has almost everything else. So answer your question, hardest thing is to find this corner. Let me have quicker answers for the other two things. Recruits are really reacting strongly to the NFL draft. Pretty much, now, folks, you got to realize these recruits barely remember who Todd Gurley was. Probably haven't really seen a lot of film of Todd Gurley playing at Georgia. So recency bias will be in their heads big about Georgia. But then especially when it's placed in the historical context, about 5 number ones off the same defense, 15 overall guys, the punter got drafted. I think that's going to be big for Georgia. A lot of the young men I talked to for their reactions to the Georgia draft I think Sammy Brown, the 5-star linebacker out of 2024, he told me that it's just another elevated level of positivity around the Georgia program. Other recruits I talked to were really inspired by what they saw young men did at Georgia, fulfilling their dreams. Georgia's kind of that dream factory along with a dream season. It really motivated a lot of those guys. Some of the guys thought that a guy like Jamari Salyer should have been picked a little bit higher. Same thing goes for Nakobe Dean. Really overwhelming for Georgia in the responses I've gotten about how impressed a lot of folks were by Georgia. And then, Keith, your third question was you want to know the strongest and deepest positions in recruiting. I think really that defensive line is also going to be very hard to find because I think it's the hardest place to find out there. I think the offensive linemen are a little bit bigger. I would say 1 or 2 clicks better than the class in 2022, which wasn't really that good at all. I think there's a lot of outside linebacker candidates in this draft. Most in this 2023 recruiting cycle, apologies for saying the word draft there. Still got draft on my mind. But I also would say that there are a lot of wide receiver prospects, and there are a lot of great wide receiver prospects that are looking hard at Georgia. So for the folks on this feed on YouTube and on Facebook, I would imagine that is a very, very good thing. William Perry, you're funny, man. I will repeat everything I said previously, especially on the replay on your Facebook or on the Spotify podcast or on the YouTube SoundCloud podcast feed as well. Also, it will be on the iTunes podcast platform as well. So a lot of places I will repeat everything I said previously. So we got you covered there, William. Let me see. We got some folks jousting in YouTube, just like the good old times, about what's going on. Guys, let's do this. Let's get in phase. Speaking of being in phase, let's go to our weekly staples. Let's go to our top targets. The top targets for this week, for this week's Before the Hedges program. We prepare them each and every week. To give you guys an example of what one man's opinion of the board. Let's make sure we get that right. One man's opinion of the board feels like heading into this week. We got 14 top targets. This is version 7.5. I'm starting out with a young man out of Lakeland, Florida. Now, he's a very talented wide receiver, Tyler Williams. I think he's around the nation's number 25 wide receiver, a lot more talented than that. Really likes Georgia, had a great visit, I believe, back in April. Lakeland, Florida is a hotbed, folks. I think there are 18 guys there with a Division I offer on his high school football team there. Tamarian Parker out of Central Phoenix, Alabama. Tamarian has already been visited by a Georgia coach this week. Number 12, speaking of a guy that got a visit for see him in the weight room and also to see him on the practice field, that's Kaden Mcdonald out of North Gwinnett. Kaden Mcdonald was at G-Day. He liked the attention he got from Trey Scott. I think Georgia is elevating its recruiting of him a little bit and its interest. Folks, I'm just going to tell you, he is a bad dude. If I had to think about guys on this list that I know will make it in college football, if I had to rank them that way in terms of bona fides, I would put Kaden Mcdonald pretty high up on this list. He was a nose tackle, guys, in 7A football in Georgia that had 20 sacks, playing either a shade nose or a 0 or maybe at the most sliding out to a 3. I think he had 62 tackles for losses. I will never forget this stat about Kaden Mcdonald. He had 7 sacks in a high school playoff game and then came back the following week and caught a touchdown pass playing offense, flaring out of the backfield, made a nifty little catch and stuck the ball out across the goal line. He's number 12 this week, moving up a couple of notches. He's a new entry into the top targets list this week. Troy Bowles, the talented All-American Butkus Award candidate out of Jesuit High School in Tampa, Florida. He is the son of Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach Todd Bowles. Number 10, Samuel Mpemba out of IMG Academy. He's originally from St. Louis. We've written about him on DawgNation recently. Georgia will get an official visit from Samuel Mpemba. He's at IMG Academy right now. Georgia sees him as an outside linebacker. New name on this list this week is the number 3 offensive tackle in the country. That is 5-star offensive tackle Samson Okunlola. He's out of Thayer Academy in Brockton, Massachusetts. Samson's family roots are from Nigeria. And his name, the last name I've been told, basically means something like River of Blessings. He gets his first name, obviously, from the strong man from the Bible, Samson and his long hair. Number 8, Jonelle Aguero, another prioritized safety in the 2023 recruiting class. Number 7 is James Smith. I call him Big Kong, out of Carver High School in Montgomery, Alabama. Another 5-star defensive lineman. His best friend, his running mate, another teammate, Quay Rusaw. Those guys are working out every morning together, most 3 or 4 days a week at 5 a.m. every morning. Those 2 guys work out in the morning at 5 a.m., and then that's considered their extra work. And then they go work out regularly with their high school weight training classes and their other football teammates as well. Number 6 was Quay Rusaw. Number 5, with Quay and James, it really feels to me like it's going to be Georgia or Bama there. I think Texas A&M is in there a little bit. Number 5 is Hakeem Williams. He was the guy that told me recently that every time he goes to Georgia, it just gets better. The feeling gets better. Very talented, very, very talented wide receiver. If Georgia could add him into this class, I would think it would go a long way towards making this a fantastic wide receiver recruiting class. I would say that Hakeem Williams, should he choose Georgia, would be as talented as any wide receiver that Georgia has signed with Kirby Smart. That would include George Pickens. 4-star Justice Haynes, right around the number 40 player in the country, out of Roswell, Georgia. Justice Had a chance to see him recently play baseball. He was throwing 90, 92 off the gun, left side, leadoff hitter, decent curveball as well. He was really hitting his spots around 90, 92. Folks, that is unfathomable how impressive that is for the young man to be in the conversation for one of the best running backs in the country. He'll probably go over 6,000 career rushing yards in his Georgia prep career. And then he also can throw the ball 90 miles an hour from the left side and is a decent little baseball prospect as well. Number 3 is Jamal Jarrett. Jamal was one of those guys that told me it was very impressive seeing what Georgia did in the draft, how Trey Scott got his guys developed and into the league. Number 2 on the list, Arch Manning, and number 1 on the list, Caleb Downs. You guys have heard a lot about Arch Manning. You guys have heard a lot about Caleb Downs as well. I'm going to tell you, if Caleb Downs was at Georgia right now, I know everybody hates the hype train on these young players, but he is such an advanced safety right now. If he was at Georgia right now at safety, I think he would be in the 2 deep. He's that talented. He is that ready for college football. Kind of a longer list this week of all the ones that I would put on the others to consider list. C.J. Allen, these are going in alphabetical order. C.J. Allen is out of Lamar County in Barnesville. Got some news coming up on the site soon with him. Olas Alinen, he's a Finnish background. I think he's a number 5 offensive tackle in the country out of Connecticut. He's a native of Finland and Europe. His father actually played football for the Atlanta Falcons in the NFL. There's some ties there. But he has established his Final Four. That includes Georgia and Alabama. 3-star offensive lineman Tyree Adams. He works with the same training group that produced and sent Sean Washington to the University of Georgia. Malik Benson is the nation's number 1 JUCO wide receiver. I think Brian McClellan has been to see him already once there this week. Georgia's putting a lot of attention on Malik Benson. Alabama is as well. Chase Besantis, another big tackle, big frame out of New Jersey. Jalen Brown, that's an impressive wide receiver, a 5-star wide receiver out of Miami, Florida. Victor Burley, he was at one time very high on this list for Georgia across the defensive line. Kelby Collins, Anthony Evans out of Texas. We just wrote about him recently. He knows 2 official visits that he's going to give right now in July. One of those is to Georgia. I believe that's around the 10th. On the 2nd, I think he's when he's going to go to Oklahoma. He is a former Arkansas commitment to Sam Pittman. He still says the Arkansas Razorbacks are still a major factor in his recruitment. Love the story I got to write about him, about his 10-2-7 in the 100 and how he has a ritual of throwing down a 10-piece chicken McNuggets, a large fry, and a large chocolate milkshake before every race and before every football game, usually about an hour before those events. He considers that to be his go fuel, his jet fuel, his touchdown juice, whatever, or his speed juice or whatever. That is his ritual. Anthony Evans, really nice. Had a really nice time talking to him. Quincy Carter does some of his training now, and he was the guy that led him around Georgia on his visit to the first time to the Georgia campus and football facility back in April. Monroe Freeling, we talked about him, is going to visit Georgia later this month. Roderick Kearney, Ian Gifford he's an interior offensive lineman out of the state of Georgia. Jordan Big Baby Hall, really Alabama, Georgia, Florida State are the schools to watch there. Jalen Hale, Grayson Pup Howard, Georgia's already been in to see him recently. I think Georgia went to see him recently last week. I think Glenn Schumann was there to see him. Grayson Pup Howard out of Jacksonville, Florida. Same thing goes for Jordan Big Baby Hall, another guy out of Jacksonville, Florida. I know folks were asking me a while back, are there any targets in Jacksonville, Florida? Well, those are 2 really big ones right there. Daniel Harris is another cornerback out of Gulliver Prep in Miami, Florida area. That's the same high school where Jalen Brown is at as well. Kyan Lee, state of Georgia, Cedar Grove, really impressive cornerback. Decommitted from Georgia after being committed for most of his junior year. Conor Liu, we talked about him briefly. Conor Liu is out of Kennesaw Mountain. Georgia sees him as a center. It sounds like there's a pretty good fit potential there with Georgia and Conor Liu. Xavier McLeod, he's a talented, really talented, big upside, high ceiling lineman out of South Carolina. Sounds like he's about to drop his top 5 very soon. Ruben Owens the second. That will be a dandy if Georgia can pull him out of the state of Texas. He has announced, it is reported this week by On3 Sports that Ruben Owens will be taking his official visit to Georgia, I believe around June 17th. Let me see. Chris Peel, that's a talented, I think it says linebacker on your graphic. He's actually a defensive back, kind of a safety nickel type out of North Carolina. He's out of North Carolina. Fran Brown has been recruiting him. Madden Sanker, we mentioned him. Kelton Smith is out of Columbus. Bryce Thornton is going to give Georgia an official visit. He is a Georgia legacy. Really impressive safety. He's one of the best safeties I saw all last season. I think he would be a great potential fit for Georgia. But Georgia's got some work to do there. There's a lot of meat on the bone in that recruitment. There are a lot of schools that are going after Bryce Thornton. You guys got to meet the handsome king, Sham Umarov, Denmark High School earlier. You got to see that interview earlier in the show. Jaden Wayne, 5-star defensive lineman. Aiden Williams, another playmaker, wide receiver. Raylan Wilson, a Michigan commitment right now, and also Richard Young. Most important restock positions for Georgia in the 2023 class: offensive tackle, wide receiver, running back, and outside linebacker. Since our last show, I think it was 2 Wednesdays ago, we were on the cruise last week on the DawgNation cruise. Sure hope you guys can join us on our next one. Georgia picked up a commitment. That was their 9th commitment. It moved Georgia up from number 5 to number 3 nationally. There are 5 offensive commitments in the class right now, 4 on defense, 5 in-state, 4 out-of-state. Always fun going across these numbers. There's still no top 50 commitments. There's still no 5-star commitments, at least not yet. There's 8 commitments in the SEC footprint, and Justin Rhett out of Bishop Gorman in Nevada. He is the only one outside of the SEC footprint. That was the commitment to Georgia right after G-Day. He decommitted from Notre Dame while he was on his official visit at G-Day. Currently, Georgia's highest-rated commitments have 3 guys slated to play offense and 2 guys slated to play on defense. Georgia has offered 218 prospects so far. A quick lot of trend here I've spotted. That's a little bit less, maybe by almost a third, maybe, or maybe at least maybe 10, 25%, maybe 25% lower than what Georgia normally has offered previous years. They've had 9 offers. They've had 9 offers since our last show. 1 running back, 2 offensive tackles, 1 cornerback, 2 athletes, 1 interior offensive lineman, and 1 edge to play the edge rusher position. Guys, that is your snapshot of all things Georgia recruiting, that quick glance on all things Georgia football recruiting. Got some hopefully that was enough speed round for you guys today. What I wanted to show you guys now is I wanted to get you guys to get a look at some tweets that really stand out to me over the past week. Let's kind of call these out one by one. I think probably the one to look at would be first is the Final Four, the 4 official visits there for Olas Alinen. He is, again, out of Connecticut. Georgia trying to add another state to Kirby Smart's tree of number 1 prospects from certain states. His family background is from Finland. You got Alabama in that mix there for also Miami, Alabama, Ohio State. That's certainly 3 heavyweights at least inside that Final Four. And then a school that's aiming to be a heavyweight in Miami. He's got those dates. Looks like Georgia's going to get the 3rd official visit there on the weekend of June 17th through June the 20th. And that means coming in on a Friday, leaving on a Sunday, where you have a 48-hour period on campus. The second one I want to pull up, and this is looks like I think Justice Haynes and his top 4 schools, at least the 4 schools that will get official visits from the legacy running back. Really impressive here. You see names you kind of expect to be in that list. You see a USC, you see the University of Georgia, you see Ohio State. That is, and you also got the Alabama Crimson Tide in there as well. For those that thought that great recent visit to Florida was all that, still hasn't made his first 4 scheduled official visits right there. Justice is really good, guys. I can tell you this on and on and on. Justice has unique athletic ability. He has the skill set and the physical package to be an All-American running back, to be a 5-star running back, to be one of the top 2 or 3 running backs in the country by anyone's measure. But what will elevate Justice above everything else will be Justice's mindset, his work ethic, the knowledge that's been instilled in him by his father, Veron Haynes, about what it takes to be great and what it takes to play on Sundays and what it takes to be special. I think he has the mental training as well as the physical training. The guy works harder than anyone probably I've ever been around. The young man, as long as I've been covering him, he's been training like the NFL Combine is a month away for him for probably the last 18 months of his life. Very interesting there to see how things are coming together there with Justice Haynes. Justice Haynes is also working to be an early enrollee in 2023. Shaman Umarov, we talked about Big Sham earlier in our program, the Handsome King. He announced his final 4 schools, and we have a tweet there for him as well. His official visits there, he's got Tennessee, he's got LSU, he's got Michigan State, and he has the University of Georgia. Georgia is actually getting the visit on June 10th through the 12th. Georgia's just going to have a busy month of June, one of those rites of passage where when everybody gets their official visit set and locked in, and when spring practice is rolling in the state of Georgia and Georgia's coaching staff is on the road across the country, that's when it's in full bore recruiting season as well. Last 2 tweets here are regarding the number 1 prospect on the top targets list, the number 1 safety in the country, and the number 1 player in the state of Georgia. That would be Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs, look at this picture here with him. He's sitting here with Will Muschamp. He scheduled his official visit to Georgia. Caleb Downs has, and he's on June the 3rd through the 5th. Big smiles there. Look how Caleb makes that white jersey look pretty athletic and form-fitting. And I'm sure he had something very funny to say there for Coach Boom and Coach Muschamp. You see that big smile. You want to see a smile 3 times bigger than that one. That would be what Coach Muschamp, basically the safeties guy at the University of Georgia. That's the position he played in college. Co-defensive coordinator. That's what his face would look like times 3 if Caleb Downs signs with the University of Georgia. And the other one, I know we got some Alabama folks having fun in the chat room tonight, at least on YouTube. He scheduled his other official visit to the University of Alabama. The Ming Dynasty, the GOAT college football coach, that would be Nick Saban of college football. That's his 2 official visits he currently has scheduled, 1 to Georgia, 1 to Alabama. If I had to go on a limb and say what's another school that I think will pretty readily get an official visit from him, I think he'll eventually take an official visit to Ohio State as well. That's a school that's kind of impressed him a lot on the recruiting trail as well. There you have Caleb Downs, both of his official visits. Tony Rojas is another name from Fairfax, Virginia. He put Georgia in his final 5. Georgia's actually going to get his last official visit. For me, Tony Rojas is a name that I think just has Georgia among his 5. I have a lot of names in mind that I would say would be much more likely to choose Georgia. He's got Georgia in his final 4 actually. And I think Georgia is a lot further down the road with a couple more inside linebacker targets or linebacker every down hybrid linebackers than Tony Rojas. But one thing I can tell you about Tony Rojas, he was good enough to be recruited by the University of Georgia as an inside linebacker, and yet he was named the off-region offensive player of the year and the defensive player of the year runner-up last season for his high school. So when you're good enough to be the offensive player of the year in your region and also the runner-up for defensive player of the year, and you're being recruited by Georgia to play defense, along with schools like Clemson and Penn State and Miami, that's a pretty good junior year, to say the least, for everything else like that. I think we had maybe one more potential tweet in our bandolier, and this is this one right here. You've got Reuben Owens. This is a graphic made, I think it was made this morning by On3 Sports. Reuben Owens, the third. Reuben Owens, the third out of Texas. He is a 5-star on the 24/7 Sports composite. Reuben Owens has made an official visit set for June the 17th through the 19th. Reuben Owens, the second, likes to call himself the unicorn or four so crazy. He will take his official visit to Georgia on that date. So you got a lot of those going on. We went through Tony Rojas. We got through Reuben Owens. We got through Caleb Downs, sending officials to Georgia and Alabama. We got Handsome Kings Final Four. We got Justice Haynes Top Four. And we got the young man from Connecticut with family roots in Finland. Those are some of the tweets to take a look at for this week here on Before the Hedges. Guys, gotta let you guys remember one more thing. Our Before the Hedges show is brought to you each and every week by Kroger. Kroger is here to help with fuel rewards. You earn 1 fuel point for every $1 you spend at Kroger in-store or online. You earn 2 times the fuel points when you purchase gift cards during special weekends throughout the year. Guys, this is Before the Hedges, and this is the point where I'm going to answer a few more questions before we get out the door. You guys got any questions? Anything else you want to know? Sonia Prescott likes that thought about Coach Muschamp with Caleb Downs as well. Let me see. Anybody have anything else on YouTube? Lots of questions on YouTube. Greg Aiken. Hey, Greg, how are you, man? I'm glad to see that it made it home safely. Oh, man, that is great. Let's go, Brandon. Hey, man, as we said earlier in the show, sometimes, you look good, you report good, you show good, you talk good, you act good, everything else like that. Jerry Dogs fan. I like I do like the reference there to Ted Lasso as well. Let me see. Let's go, Brandon. Has a neat little take. It says, crazy how you can go from hating Muschamp to loving him. Weird. Yeah, Visor, Will Muschamp. If I had to do my power rankings of Georgia's recruiters over the last 2 years, over the last year, Muschamp would probably be in the top 3 or 4 at least. We got some folks talking about Florida. We got folks wondering about a Finnish dog. Let me see. Got some people pontificating about the prognostications on the Vegas lines on the numbers. Jerry Dogs fan, how are you? Let me see. Brandon Lesko makes a comment about how cool it would be to have a linebacker named Pup. Yeah, Grayson Pup Howard would be right. Kirby Visor, you're pretty right. That's the first thing I thought. I mean, if he's that fast when he's eating McNuggets before every race, then you imagine how fast he would be when he would be eating some clean and some really good protein. Rhett Womack, good question about Justice Haynes. Justice doesn't see it as a must to play baseball too in college, and I don't think any school is going to prevent him from that. But what they want to see him do is they want to see him, he's got the ability to be like a really good reliever or a really good weekday starter, maybe perhaps at Georgia, eventually with that arm. But really the baseball thing would have to come together where he can be a contributor and not just a guy on the bench, because that way he's not really furthering his baseball career and he's not really furthering his incredible football career as well. Let me see. Lots of questions. Yeah. I had somebody pop up there about Sammy Brown. I'll have an update there on Sammy Brown recently. William Keating wanted to know an update on Arch Manning. Arch Manning, his team will start at spring practice, I believe, next week. That's how it's going. Martin Ariandono wants to know about Tony Mitchell. I think it's going to be a very tough recruitment for anybody to pull Tony Mitchell away from Alabama or Texas A&M. That's what I think. Jerry Dogs fan, the basketball recruiting is going great. I think Mike White's picked up 4 recruits over the last week. Kyle Folds brings some knowledge to the program. In the Caleb Downs recruitment, his dad, Gary, started high school in Columbus during the same time as Dell McGee and Ohio State defensive backs coach Tim Walton. His dad, Gary Downs, is actually the recruiting coordinator and running backs coach right now. He is definitely knows the game when it comes to what's real recruiting, what's genuine recruiting, what's fake, and what's real. And also, his definitely does it because his other son is probably going to be first team preseason all ACC, and maybe first team, maybe even a preseason honorable mention All America after the great season he had last year for North Carolina. Guys, it's been another Before the Hedges. I tried to catch a bunch of questions. I tried to act like I'm still in cruise mode. It's cool seeing some names of some folks that were on that DawgNation cruise with us on YouTube and on Facebook. We got to give you guys a little bit of video from Jamari Salyer's draft day. More to come on DawgNation.com there. We got you guys a chance to learn a little bit more about the Hanson King, Sham Umarov out of Denmark High School in Cumming, Metro Atlanta. Got through top targets. We had that new big name on the top targets list. Hope everybody noticed that 5-star offensive tackle that showed up on the top targets list this week, along with a lot of other moving up and down around things with the top targets list. Official visits have settled in. You've got Georgia football coaches on the road the last 2 weeks. They're actually on the road at spring practices now in the state of Georgia, which really, for me, feels like overdrive for really recruiting season starting to really get going. And really, probably over the next 2 to 3 months or so is really when a lot of the major legwork, a lot of the major anchor pieces and the really foundational recruiting will happen for Georgia with its 2023 class. We'll be here on Before the Hedges and DawgNation to chronicle and capture all of that for all of you, like we've been here for 6 years now, I believe, on Before the Hedges. I'm your host, Jeff Sentell. It's been great hanging out with you guys. That's the intel. Be well, and we'll see you guys again on the pages of DawgNation.com. Blessings to everyone out there, and have a great rest of your week, everybody.